Today's spooky spot, we're having a look at the Universal Studios, home of the original monsters, Universal Studios Monsters Legacy Series 2. This is a limited edition. It's actually 1944 of 2012 pieces. It contains 3 figures, all of which are black and white versions of figures that we've already gotten, with a slight tweak to the original released Dracula. The packaging itself is a nice open window box, so you can see all 3 characters making up the Universal Studios Monsters Legacy series. On the back side here, showing the 3 figures that comprise this set, we've got Dracula, the Bride of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein. The write-up says between 1923 and 1958, Universal Studios released over 60 different monster movies, all in black and white, introducing the world to some of the most iconic screen creations of all time. In honor of that legacy, this set represents 3 of the most famous Universal monsters in their original black and white appearances. This comes to us all from the good folks at Diamond Select Toys. You can go to www.diamondselecttoys.com. What I am going to do is take a terrifying break. Oh, something fell in the background. It's probably a ghost. I'm going to take a terrifying break. I'm going to get this opened up, and when we come back, we are going to get a better look at the Universal Studios, home of the original monsters, Legacy Series 2. There's definitely more to come. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. And with the Universal Studios Monster Legacy set, that's a big title there, you're going to get 3 iconic characters, all of which come with display stands, and I would say unfortunately all of them require display stands, as all 3 of them, perhaps except for Frankie over here, all of them have tough times standing. Let's first start the review with having a look at Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster. Let's be correct about this. All of them are actually just repaints, essentially repaints of the previously singular released versions of the figures. Now, Spot's already done reviews of all 3, and unfortunately, I don't know where Spot put his original figures that I could do the comparisons for you. But they are just essentially black and white versions of those individually released figures. Frankenstein, it's to be said that really all 3 of them, despite the fact that they fall under the home of the Universal Studios, home of the original monsters title, unfortunately, none of them really share any likeness to the original actors that played him, or played the characters. Like, for example, with Frankenstein, you kind of can see slight traces of Boris Karloff, not really much. I understand that they can't use likeness-wise of the characters. I will say, though, it transitions better having them in black and white than having them in original color. In fact, that's one thing I can say that I really like about this set. Even if the figures themselves obviously bear no resemblance to the original actors and actresses that played the characters, at least having them in black and white conveys better the idea of the Universal Studios monsters. Frankenstein, I think, has done pretty well. I mean, he is, for the most part, a static action piece. He has he has no articulation in the waist, I assumed, if anything, but he does have articulation in the feet, and the arms do go forward, as with Frankenstein you would hope that they go forward at least. You can also turn them at the hands. Some of the hands are a little harder to move than others, and of course the head can move as well. You can't really do much else with him. His body is made up of, again, black and white colors, which translates extremely well when it comes to these monsters. Detail-wise, again, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The face is close enough that you know exactly who it's supposed to be of, even if it doesn't quite look like the actor. Frankenstein's monster does come with a display stand, a shackled floor of the laboratory there. It doesn't look anywhere as if you have a section to peg him in, even though despite the fact he does have peg holes on the undersides of his feet, there is nowhere on the display stand itself where you can peg Frankenstein. Now, I assumed out of packaging, I think that Frankenstein did have this display stand, And yes, and the bride had the other display stand, but I guess you could really easily swap them out if you really wanted to. He does stand obviously on the base, no issue there. I mean, he of the three stands the best. The other two are really difficult to get to stand. But I like Frankenstein. I like the original Frankenstein, though truth be told, I don't know where I've put the original figure. He's somewhere. If I can eventually find him, obviously a review, maybe I'll do a comparison if I can find him. But as it stands, I am happy with the black and white version of Frankenstein's monster. It transitions, again, much better than I think the original color version of him. Frankenstein's monster, I'm going to give him a very terrifying 7. 7 for Frankenstein. Even though he is mostly a statue. Moving along, putting Frankenstein hopefully in a place that he's going to stand properly. Just going to move him to the side. Moving along, let's have a look at the bride. Bride of Frankenstein. Now, this figure plagued me in the original review, and unfortunately I don't have that figure. I don't even think I even own that figure anymore, just because she just fell apart on me. I think what the issue was, I think the arms gave me problems where, I'm trying to remember, the arms I think broke off. The head broke off. I know that from the neck. So I'm going to be very careful with this particular figure, and I guess it's worked itself out that a black and white version I now have in hand, because I probably would prefer her in black and white anyways. She's wearing her long robe, I guess. You kind of have to keep the robe down, as it seems to kind of want to continue to hike up to her neck, which therefore then makes it look like she's got a really, really short neck. She doesn't really have so much a short neck, but keeping the gown, as you can see, down is always an issue. It just kind of keeps popping back up. Had there be a way to simply just peg that into place, would have made things a lot easier. They've made it so that you can, if you wanted to, take these arms off. They come out extremely easy, and you could take this whole piece off, which I think lended itself as to why I had issues with the neck, and probably why the neck broke. Just pop that into place. The face, though, doesn't really look like the Bride of Frankenstein. Instead, it kind of just looks like, and I think I mentioned this before, Gina Davis. Gina Davis. Complete with an insane Marge Simpson style hairstyle. She did it first, though, before Marge. I like the coloring. Again, just it's black, it's white. She's mostly white, though. Pale in the face, pale in the robe itself as well. But I like her. She's got a single peg hole on the bottom of her foot, which helps because, unfortunately, she does not stand very well at all. Speaking of does not stand very well at all, and there goes Dracula. I'm just going to put her down for a second. Her display stand is, I don't want to say mediocre. It's, unfortunately, the one leg, the one post, does not mount at all in the hole. It just kind of, you just kind of sit it in there and it just moves around. It does have some chains, which is a nice touch, and the single peg hole for her foot. But I wish this one doesn't move at all. This one just flops all over the place. It's just a mess. So if anything, if I'm going to ever keep this on a display, I'm going to just glue this down, I think, and just have it as is. Now, you could easily use it for Frankenstein's monster if you wanted to as well, but having a look, though, at the bride's articulation, and she has a little bit better than Frankie, but not really by much. She has an articulated head, which, again, I got to be very careful of. Also, if you notice with her hair, between her hair and her face, it really prevents a lot of movement at all in her head. And that probably ended up being the reasoning why that broke off on me. Her arms do move forward and back, but they, as you can see, come out quite easily. She has rotation in the hand. And then when it comes down to her legs, now you got to imagine that she would have rotation in her waist, but having it in this robe, she doesn't really do all that much. And also, I wish there was just a way, I wouldn't want to do this, but I would almost glue the robe down to her shoulders, just to keep it from going anywhere, because it's almost disastrous, the way that robe just continues to hike up. But I think of the three, She might be my second favorite. I think Frankenstein's monster is done really well, and having her in black and white transitions really well, but unfortunately, again, it just does not look like the actress that played the Bride of Frankenstein. So it's a bit of a shame, but I understand due to licensing, and they didn't own the rights to use the likeness, as those respected licenses are very hard to come by. I don't think it makes sense as to why she does not look like the Bride of Frankenstein. Bride of Frankenstein, though, I'm going to give her a 6.5. She's good, but there's too many issues with the figure that, unfortunately, I can't give her a really high rating. Lastly, we've got ourselves Dracula, which, unfortunately, he is the worst for standing upright. He does come with his display stand, by the way, which I like. It's kind of like a cemetery scene with a little broken tombstone and whatnot. That looks like a nice display stand. Of the three, this is my favorite display stand. Of course, black and white also really makes it look dated. It makes it look like it's been taken from the older horror movies. Bride is already starting to fall, so hopefully she'll stay for the rest of this review. Dracula he's good if you look at him strictly as a Dracula figure and not Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi, he is the furthest thing you could be from looking like him. He does look good in black and white, and Spot's already done the review of him, the color version of him, which actually didn't have... Oh, she's going to fall. There she goes. I'm just going to lay her down. The Dracula that I did do the review on initially didn't have the open fanged face, the open mouthed face. The other one just had a closed mouth, which I kind of like. I think a little bit more than the open mouth idea of Dracula. His cape is still an issue, where his cape just kind of sits on his shoulders. It doesn't peg in. It doesn't do anything. But the biggest culprit for this is that this figure is not sunlight. It's his ability to stand. While he does have articulation in the shoulders, his arms move out as well. And he has the rotation in the hands, rotation in the head. He even has a swivel in his head and a swivel in the waist. His biggest culprit, though, is his lower legs. They're sculpted in such a way that he's pre-posed with one foot in front of the other. But unfortunately, that means he doesn't stand well at all. He tends to want to lean to the one side, which means he falls immediately when you put him down on a surface. So your best bet with Dracula is to keep him on a display stand at all times, and at least then he's gonna look good. I don't know though. I like him in black and white, but I think I almost prefer the one with the closed mouth a little bit more than this Dracula. This Dracula I like, but with really all three of these monsters, you have to kind of approach the set as inspired by the original movie monsters, not so much designed to look like. I like Dracula, and I like how he's done. I just wish there was a way that they could have done something a little bit better with the legs, and that was the same issue I had with the original Dracula. Display stands are very crucial in this terrifying set. Dracula, I'm going to give him a very blood-curdling 7.5. You guys can let me know down below what you guys think of this particular set. Certainly much more spooky spots are heading your way. Today we're having a look at the Diamond Select Toys Monster Legacy Series 2 box set. 3 different terrifying monsters, all depicted in black and white. Although the scariest aspect of them is to get them to stand. Thanks for watching, as you always do, guys. There is, again, many more spooky spots heading your way. See you guys next time.